Welcome to Lydia Nicole's Acting Smarter podcast. I am your host, Lydia Nicole, and I'm so excited to share this podcast with you today because we have so much wonderful information, so much wonderful history to share with you. But before I start, I want to tell you about actingsmarternow.com, which is a program for actors to help you, to empower you, to get you ready to have your best career and life ever. Yes, career and life, because as an actor, we are three-dimensional. We are body, spirit, and soul. And so we need to be able to do it all. We need to be able to have it all. And we actually have that person here today who is a great example of what being a total actor is. My first question for you is, what did doing improv early in your career do for you?
Improv is what we all do from the very first moment we're born, that we're improvising with those around us. But the teacher, Dale Close, was the guru from Second City, who taught Belushi, Aykroyd, and all of those great people. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from him was that instead of doing what your instinct tells you to do the opposite. And that is really hard to do. Because doing the obvious, you fall into the traps of being easy. But if you start thinking of opposites, then your brain goes different. And you can just go, and I'm a little off color in that way. And in that way too. So what improv does is that really is you have to be a great listener. And that's what every great actor has to do, is listen to the person that's talking to them. And if you're listening, then you can react in a real way. Just react to what is being said, and not to what your dialogue is and what you have memorized, and all that angst of, I don't want to forget that line. I'm doing my lines over here so that I make sure I have them. And then that's where, no, you have to be prepared. Who was it that I heard that Spencer Tracy would get his script and go into a room and not come out till he had it all memorized. But
Wow.
that's a lot. I think those kind of things are not easier to do, but you get more practice because you get to have a lot of dialogue, and you get to have a real life. For us as Latinos, we have one or two lines maybe. And so those are harder to just jump out into the real world with the line, because you're like, blah, instead of just doing it. And another one, not only with improvisation, but one of my favorite techniques to use anytime anybody has any dialogue to say, any poem that they're reciting, anything, to let the people in on a secret. So if I let you in on a secret, then everybody in the audience is going to be leaning, because I'm speaking a little softer and they know I'm talking to them. So this is just for you, and you know who I'm talking about. So that I love that, because it really does it not only for the audience, for the other actor, but for yourself. It gives you that intimate feeling.
So I want to introduce you to not only the hardest working man in show business. We have dethroned James Brown. Pepe Serna is the hardest working man in show business. Not only that, I want you to know that I believe he has the most credits out of any Latino actor ever. The most. I mean, I went looking to see who else had. They had a person. I'm not even going to mention his name, but he didn't even come close to Pepe Serna. I could not believe it. So, just so you know, Pepe Serna has the most credits ever. Ever. And I saw that there were credits that weren't even listed on his page. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you the man, the myth, the legend, the amazing, wonderful, so sweet, so kind, so giving Pepe Serna.
Oh, thank you, Lydia. You should have called me sooner.
I was holding all of this for you, Pepe. I was waiting for you.
Oh, well, I got something for you. You know that uh, you are like the New York version of the Midwest farmer. 'Cause
No.
in the Midwest, they have children so that they can go milk the cows, feed the pigs, the chickens. And in New York, you have a child who is your producer
That's right. That's
running
right.
the show.
She's my
So,
producer, my photographer, my editor.
how fabulous is that? To the manner born.
I
Wow.
sent her to NYU so she could learn all the tricks.
And that is sometimes because it's always a struggle because we always want more and more and there's just never enough money to pay for all the things you need, and usually it's just for more gear, for more so you can get more of an education on what you're doing, and traveling is the best education and that's the most expensive. So but it's incredible the people that I know that have had children, especially Latinos in the industry. I say, man, you are to the manner born, and you have to appreciate it and understand. It's the Barrymores, you know. It's the what the Barrymores did, and
Absolutely.
we have the same thing going on with all the so many of the singers, the dancers, all the entertainers that we have.
I want to start off with you by just going down memory lane for a little bit. You came to Hollywood because you borrowed $100 from your mom.
No,
No,
no, I didn't
that.
borrow it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got my facts wrong.
No, no, it's a straight out gift.
Oh, she gave it to
Oh, my
you.
mother was every time I not only to Hollywood, but when before I got to Hollywood, I went to New York to work at the World's Fair, and I got my $100 then. And when I went off to school in Mexico City, she would borrow $100 and have to pay back. This is in the '60s. Have to pay back 10% interest,
Wow.
and it was to one of her best friends who was eh, you would call him a loan shark, but it wasn't a loan shark. It was just people giving somebody an opportunity. And but anyway, yes, I did. I okay. I'll go back. That yeah, it was
Yeah.
a borrowed love.
So tell me what was inside of you. I know you knew you were an actor at a very early age, at 3. But what made you say I have to go to Hollywood?
I don't know what it was about that I knew I had to come to Hollywood, but because I grew up on all the Mexican movies, las películas de oro, with Cantinflas and Jorge Negrete, and like everybody did, because those were the films that all of Latin America was watching, in Cuba and Puerto Rico, and all the same stars, and I just knew that watching TV, I watched a lot of television, that was happening in Hollywood, and the fact that I went to New York first and studied at the Max Slater Academy, but I knew I had to go back to school, and I knew I was going to be having to go into the service in '65. Uh, so
Was
so
that a draft? Was that part
yeah,
of the draft?
it was part of the draft, but I went before the draft could draft me. I enlisted in the reserves. I didn't want to kill or be killed, and so the Marines was the last ditch effort. I went because I was a brave guy, but me and my buddies, that was we couldn't get into any other reserves, so we got into the Marines, which was the greatest training. And I really think that almost that everybody should have uh, should go into the army for at least 6 months to learn how to say yes, sir, no, sir, and to do what you're told, not to ask questions. You don't ask questions. Oh, I don't feel. No, it's not about that. So it's a great lesson in life to, hey, and especially for actors. It's like you've worked with so many, right? And you say, well, I don't know if that fits my character, and like I always say, hey, if the words don't fit your mouth, make your mouth fit the words, right?
I love it.
Because the actors are always coming on with something about, no, man, you can do it. You can do any scene a million different ways, and why not do it the way the director's asking you? Why not give that a shot instead of thinking of how brilliant you are and the things that you already came up with? Because in the moment, that improv thing is when magic happens. Is when you don't have everything so prepared that you're not open to the other person that's performing with you. It's
Right.
it's it's you
And
know
improv only happens when the director gives you permission.
yeah,
Because if you're
or
working on a film or a TV show and they want those lines, you better
right,
deliver those lines.
that's it. Don't yeah. It's like they don't. They no. They it's the writer, the writer. The story is the king. That's the star. The story is the star for me. It's not the actors. Yeah, the actors are portraying this, but give that writer his due, give or her due, and do try to see what they have in mind, and then sometimes magic happens where something will just come up, and it might, and I always another thing because see, there's not that much time, so you got to be careful because you may not be asked to the party again if you decide you're going to go off half cocked and do what you want. If you follow instructions and are there to be part of the team, then it makes a difference. I do a lot of motivation with my improv and stuff. And one of my favorite, there's a couple of favorite things that I have is that aroma is to a flower what attitude is to a person. So don't walk in to an interview stinking up the place, and don't leave stinking up the place. And the other one is that all of us are 6 inches away from any dream we've ever had. And those 6 inches are right here. It's
Hmm.
just 6 inches, man. It's you. You can make it happen. You have to have that will. Don't spend more than you make, and when you don't spend more than you make, then you always have a dollar or two in your pocket that you don't back in the day when a dollar or two was a dollar or two, but that all of a sudden you're not as hungry as you should be because you've got something in your pocket. You're not you're not destitute.
And
So
I
that's
like
all.
to say, I like to say, be hungry but don't be desperate.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like be a little hungry. You want to be a little hungry. When you're coming to a big dinner, you want to be ready to eat, but you don't want to come like you haven't eaten in 4 days.
yeah. And don't take all the good stuff. There's a party of people. There's a lot of people around. So just do it as if what we grew up with. That the character education that our Latino forefathers gave us, the honesty, respect, responsibility, all of those things, stick to itiveness, all those things that we had the uncles and aunts who worked and didn't complain and loved what they did, no matter if it wasn't their dream, that so that their kids could have it. And on the other hand, I tell the mothers, Latinos especially, everything goes, the mothers, the women, everything to the kids, new clothes, all. I say, no, you have to go buy yourself a nice dress and makeup so that your kids get the aprecias, that you have your own. you have your own. You are the your own queen, so you have to have that respect for yourself, so that your daughters, especially, and your daughters can see that wow, I can respect myself. My mother respects myself, and then for the sons, that they can respect any woman they're going to meet, like they respect their sisters or their mothers, and and not just be driven into, oye tú mami qué buena tú, you know, street corner stuff that when you get around the guys, it just happens, you know. You become a you become a pack of dogs. Someone over there, ever, you know.
Well, so because you're what you just mentioned is so important to bring as an actor. It is so important to bring character, not that you make a character, but a character that you are. You have character, you have respect, you have compassion, you have generosity, you have love, you have humanity. Because as an actor, you need to be able to tap into all those feelings. You need to be able to tap into all those sides of a character.
Yeah, yeah, it's that organic impulse that we have, that when you do just exactly what you're talking about, said you don't have to think about having integrity or respect or responsibility, or even, oh, I'm going to give this character that. It's already there. It's part of our being. And when you're free, then all those things flow from you in a way that is really really good, uh, the audience sees it, and the way we learned it, the improv scenes is, I gave you who you are. It's three lines. I tell you who you are, you tell me who I am. I tell you where we are, you tell me more about where we are. Then I tell you why we're here, and then you tell me more about why we're here. It's really hard to do, but if you follow those three, practice them like you have to practice everything else, then you can. And the audience doesn't really know what's going on, but what's happening is that I'm not making myself that sheriff or that the hero. You're I'm making you the hero. And the audience say, wow, something's happening here. There's a lot of giving going on here. Giving and taking. I'm giving to you, you're giving to me. So it's like the best of what we want in the world, to see why we're all so enthralled with the Ukraine, the people of the Ukraine, what they have done, what they continue to do for themselves and their neighbors and humanity and for the world, to show, wow, he didn't go into hiding the first day like everybody wanted him to, because everybody's sure that uh, Putin had his eye right on him and was going to just take him down in 3 seconds. But he stayed, and that's what we need. You got to stay in the picture, and and the important thing is, like, there are no small parts. You know, there's nobody who's an extra in life. If you're an extra in a scene, don't don't be just an extra in a scene that you just, because that's what we always see is just, you know, somebody in the background just pretending to talk, or just like. But when the real interesting scenes are when you see people in the background that are really having a conversation, because in movies with a big cast with a lot of stars, everybody else is alive and doing something, and then they see somebody and they you know, it's interaction within the room. I was doing a show, yeah, just real quick, where I'm at on a bench in a church, and my family comes in, and they're all into their own scene, right? But n- none of them remember to touch their grandfather, like a normal Latino family would do, right? You walk into a church, I stay at mi abuela, abuelo, you know, because when you touch somebody, man, that's some mojo coming back to you. I recognize you. Oh man, that's then you're good for 1,000 years.
I just want to say that is who you have been throughout. You have been, when you talk about the improv and the three things that you bring to improv, you have done that as an actor all your life. I mean, throughout all your work, that is what you've done. Um, Giving to the other characters, giving to the other actors, giving and enjoying. One thing I will say about you, Pepe, is that you are a joyful actor. You bring joy in every role, even if the character dies, even if, but you bring a humanity that we don't see a lot of, especially not for Latinos, because the roles are so few and far between that you started out the conversation talking about I just want to get my lines in. I just want to, okay, my line is going to come. But that's not what you project on screen. What you project on screen is always the humanity, which is your stuff is so subliminal yet so profound, because you come with joy, you come with gladness. And I'm in awe of watching your work, how simplistic it is yet so complex,
Hmm.
that if I hate to say this, but if you were a white actor, you would have won at least 10 Oscars. And so, but to see your work and to see how you hit the mark, how you just come in, you're just being present. You said it earlier. An actor's job is to listen, to be present. You talked about the grandfather, that in real life you would tap the grandfather, you would be affectionate, you would surround him. And that's what you bring to the characters that you do. You bring life to it. So I just wanted to say that, because I think sometimes people see actors but they don't realize all the intricacies that go in, especially for Latino actors and actors of color. You don't know when you're going to get the next job, and to be able to just leave it all there, and not organically, to leave it all there, to come in, be present, and just do what you do, and then go, I did a good day's work, and not feel like I should have done this and I could have done that, and I could, but just to, there's a looseness to you, there's a warmth to you, there's a inviting energy to you, that I'm sure that you brought that when you came in, which to Hollywood, which allowed you to book 5 jobs back to back.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was never a surprise. My first movie was in 1964 in Corpus Christi, where I was the lead. I was a bullfighter, and I wasn't surprised that I got the lead in my own hometown at 19, and I was in college, and they're looking for a bullfighter. I was the only Chicano actor, so I was the guy everybody mentioned, and because everybody knew, because I told everybody that I was going to Hollywood, that I was an actor, and I don't remember anybody ever saying, "No, don't be stupid. You're not gonna go to Hollywood," except one friend when we were in the Marines, and he stuttered a little bit, and he would say, "A poco you think you're gonna be a movie star? A poco you think you're gonna be a movie star?" But a movie star was never what I was. Well, I came from the Sandlot. I was a terrible student. I just couldn't concentrate, and I probably had one of those initials that they throw around these days. that so, but it's anyway. It's and going back to that scene, what happens in scenes, because this is a lot for actors. right, is that we're always looking at the star. We're always, if we're in a scene and you want to please the star, you want to make sure that the star knows you're there and that you're paying attention to the star. But what about if you just pay attention to the waiter who's pouring you the water, and you react in a natural way, just like, and you can't, if you're an extra, you're not supposed to, if you're in a scene, you can't be doing dialogue when the dialogue is going on. But if you just have a moment with them, just show your gratitude with just the nod, the not, and nothing thought out, nothing, fake. It's like, that's where my Sandlot came in, because I was usually the quarterback, but one day you're on my team, the next day you're on the other team, and you make a great catch. You made a great catch. I not know. Well, that's, you don't know, man. You're always to support, and that was just something that I grew up with. And I had an older brother who was real tough, and so I was able to do anything. So in high school, I was in the production of Oklahoma, because I had done a summer class at the college when I was going to be a senior, and the director was doing Oklahoma, and I don't know how uh, she knew that I could dance, but she wanted me to be in the ballet sequence. So everybody knows I'm an actor in school, right? It's Puro Gringos, where Farrah Fawcett went to high school. And so everybody, hey, every day, ballerina, hey, ballerina, because I was in the ballet sequence of Oklahoma. And on Friday night, I left the campus, and with a couple of, hey, ballerina, see you Monday, ballerina, that kind of stuff. Saturday night, I win the Golden Glove Championship. In the
Wow.
morning, I come in, hey, champ. So Friday I was ballerina. Now on Monday I'm the champ.
So
So
wait a
that,
minute. So wait, I got to stop this because this is like this is such a jump. You were you were doing Oklahoma, but you were also boxing at the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And no, people didn't know you were boxing.
yeah. They, well, not to, it's like,
Not like they knew you were an actor.
yeah, not like they knew I was an actor, but they didn't know. Not everybody knew that I was doing the ballet sequence, and not everybody knew that I was in the boxing team. But that's what happens with fame. That's what happened. That's what's happening now with my documentary. Everywhere I go for this year, that since I was never the star, uh, I was never treated like these were with friends from. I'll say it from nosotros. You know, I wasn't. Everybody is a star effer. If you're not, if you're not one of those up here, then you really don't count. And
They
if
take you
you're,
for granted. They take
yeah,
you for
and
granted.
if
Yeah.
you tienes humildad, if you're humble about it, uh, but that's why I always hate about the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it's so bizarre that the most obnoxious, arrogant people on a set that everybody hates, but they'll still pay attention to them because they're such a pain in the butt that they'll and but that doesn't mean that you have to be. But anyway, it's yeah, it's
So let me just this is a great moment to come in and talk about some of your credits because I mentioned in the beginning that you've done over 400 credits on your IMDb, but you also have done a bazillion looping jobs that
yeah,
nobody talks about, but I know about it. And um, so I just want to highlight a couple of the jobs that you've done because you've done every episodic that there is, especially in the 80s. You did everything. But
yeah,
I want to highlight some of the films. So you did Car Wash, which is a classic. I mean, you also were in a lot of classic stuff. It wasn't just, I did a short here, I did a short there. That short won an award, and that short went to Cannes, and that you really everything you've done has been high profile. The Jerk,
Sure.
Silverado, Shootout, which was one of your earliest projects, The Ballad of Gregorio Cortez, which is a classic, amazing film, Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, another classic cult film, currently Flaming Hot, that Eva Longoria directed, about the Cheetos, how the Cheetos came to be. You also have done a lot of voiceovers. I didn't realize you had done so many episodes of the PJs.
Oh yeah.
You did like 40 something PJ episodes, and Scooby Doo. I saw you had done a voiceover on Scooby Doo. I just had to mention it because I love Scooby Doo. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and early on you did a film in Spanish that was a co-production with Mexico, Races de Sangre, that was directed by Jesus Trevino, you and Richard Yeniguez, which was very instrumental, to bring two countries together. You guys did that. That was pretty revolutionary back then.
Oh man, it was
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, it was fabulous.
Yeah, so you have really done a lot, and it's like your
Day of the
instrument is.
Locust. Day
Oh,
of
I
the
didn't, I didn't
That
see
was my
that.
that was Day of the Locust. That was my only nude scene.
Ah,
Schlesinger, but I worked on that particular movie. There must have been 7 or 8 Academy Award winners on that
well,
set.
you've also worked with a lot of Academy Award winners. You worked with Gregory Peck, from Gregory Peck to Meryl Streep. Yeah, and not just actors but directors. You really, your background is so full. It's so it's amazing, and the fact that you would do looping and show up and just work and work and work and work. And I say that's something about your character, that you're egoless. You
Yeah.
you don't show up with your ego, because looping is not a glamorous job. It's
No.
not a glamorous job at all. I mean, it may pay the bills, but nobody knows you did it. Nobody knows you were in that booth all this time, trying to put your voice to those lips up on the screen, or create dialogue that no one will ever hear. But it's amazing. It's just amazing. It's just a testimony to who you are. So I just want to continue to give you your flowers, man, because you really have done a lot. And I want to talk about your. I want to get into your one man show, even though it's not around. I love that you invested in yourself. You talk about investing in yourself as an actor, but doing a one man show is a true investment as an actor, because you wrote it and you had a ton of characters that you did. One of my favorite lines, well, actually, there's two that I really love, is that he's a triple threat, a
People say
Texicon, a Tex icon, a Mex icon, and a Amara icon.
American.
I love that. I thought that was brilliant. And then you go on to say you have to learn to read and write in English and Spanish, because in order to beat the gringo at bingo, you have to learn their lingo. I thought that was great. I love that. I
You
just
see,
I
and when I tell the students, say, who are the gringo? Who are to beat the gringo? Who's the gringo? Say, the white guy, the guy in charge. I said, no, we're the gringos. All of us are gringos. We're in the United States. We're all gringos. And what's the bingo? The bingo is whatever your passion is, whatever your work is going to be. That's your bingo. What's the lingo? The lingo is the information that you have to learn and fill your heart and soul with so that you can be the very best at your bingo because you're the only one in the race. You're not competing with anybody. You're the only one that's there, so it's not you against the world. It's just, no, you're just feeding yourself as much information about culture and about other cultures and especially for Latinos, as Mexicans, yeah, we all know. They said no, no, they have Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and that, oh yeah, give me some hot sauce. No, that's not the culture. Cubans don't like, Of course, there are Cubans that like, not because it's gotten so big, but you have to give everybody their due and their respect of what's special, what's different about the Boricuas. What does that mean? When I didn't know anything, but working with meeting, having Puerto Rican friends and stuff, and learning about it, I was like, yeah, that's interesting. That Anyway, yeah.
And so what made you want to do a one-man show?
I said because how is Hollywood going to know what you can do if you yourself don't even know what you can do because you're never given the chance. So, and I say, when you yourself don't even know, because until you start writing it, it's coming from another place. Every great songwriter, they said, I didn't, it came from another source. It just came. And when you open yourself, but it takes work. It takes, that great Thomas Edison, 10,000 hours to invent the incandescent light bulb. He didn't have 9,999 failures. It just took 10,000 to finally get it. So it's like, you just do it. My yard, I have a beautiful junk, well, but I have to work. I have to water it. I have to trim it. And it's not, but I wanted it. So now I have to do it. I have gardeners, but they don't, they don't do what I can do. But my character, my one man show, uh, I I'm el ruco chuco cholo pachuco, the oldest and youngest living suchu pachuco on the planet. Homie, homie, don't you know me? Come on, no, claro que sí. Of course you do. You are me. And papi and mommy make three. And what about my sister, mister? Did you think I wasn't gonna list her? I'm her brother. She's my sister. North, south, east, west, the four corners. I've seen it all. And I've yet to see anything at all. Right is wrong. Wrong is right. Black and white, day and night. No, it takes too long. Ain't no time at all. Sweet and sour, yin and yang, alpha, omega, plus, minus, positive, negative. Accentuate the positive. Eliminate the negative. I've been there, done that. Whatever you see, I painted the picture. Whatever you say, shut up. I already heard it. Whatever you read, I wrote it. I fought in every war that was ever fought. Yeah, all the wars. The Mexican Revolution, the Civil War, the American Revolution, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, the desert, Vietnam. I fought in every war that was ever fought. I won some and I lost some, but I never lost face, because that's a disgrace. And El Ruco Chuco Chulo Pachuco doesn't live in that place. I'd rather spend my days in outer space. Oh, yeah. I spent my time in the small space, the cage, the cubicle, the lockdown, stupid pigs. I was run down, found, and shut down, busted. Said I pulled the trigger, might as well send my young butt up the river to the penitentiary, the pen, the joint, the jail, la pinta, la cárcel, el bote, porque me gustaba el borlote. The big house, the hoosegow. You give it the name, I'll take the blame. I'll lay it flat on the line. I committed the crime. Now I have to be man enough to do the hard time. And then he goes on and on. But,
Excellent, excellent.
you
Uh,
know,
in doing the show, because a one person show is a beast, and in doing it, what did you learn about yourself?
Well, the main thing I learned in musicians. Are you familiar with the term woodshedding?
Yes.
For musicians, for those that don't know, especially if you're a drummer, you go to the woodshed so that nobody can hear you, all that music and any instrument. So for actors, we don't have that. We don't have that practice until we get an audition or we get, and that's why I love auditions. If I do an audition, it's like I did the part already. Like I did it. I already paid. That was my pay to me. Even when you're gonna do 9,999 and you might get one, but but all the time I do it. It's not, oh man, I have to work. No, that's that's your muscle you're working. That's your 10,000 hours. That's and that's what a one man show did for me. Is that I was always in the car traveling back and forth. I had a house in Balboa Island, and I had apartments in the desert, and going back and forth. I would just be running dialogue all the time whenever I'm traveling or stuff, and even my wife has the radio on or whatever, or talking to me, because it's just in my head, just doing it. But you get to practice it, and and I tell the best way I think every actor should do a one person show, and the way that I was told to do it, and the way I started was with three characters that interact. Could be your grandmother, your aunt, a cousin, the neighbor, something that's different, but they're connecting to each other. 1.5 minutes each. So three characters, 1.5 minutes each, was 4.5 minutes. And that grew to 30 characters in 2.5 hours of different characters. And it was, and a lot of them were just, uh, in my head, were just Chicanos pretending to be something else so
Mm,
that they could get on TV. So one
mm.
was a Ruby too chic Valentino. I am a bon vivant and I have a what you want. Buonasera. Como stai? Bene. Deliciosa, delicious taste. It's all about taste. If you have it, flaunt it. If not, not to worry. It can be acquired. So it pretends. Now, they say, well, you can't be doing gay characters. But some of my gay friends were the most macho of anybody I ever met. So it's not, if you're a little bit different, if you have an accent, then they say, what is he or isn't he, or what is he or isn't he, what it's interesting when you hear something, and that's when you throw something at somebody with the classes that I teach with, using colors or inanimate objects or something outside, that no longer is it about the dialogue, but you're throwing something in, and the people, wait, what's going on? Uh, you're taking yourself uh, somewhere else, but you're still in the scene. But the audience is like, oh, something's going on here. It's not just, you know, in the sitcoms, everything is fast, fast. You got to get those lines out. And that's another. Oh man, we're going all over
Well,
here.
a theater allows you to breathe. It allows you to let the character breathe. Where a sitcom is, you got to be so. It really is. Um, it's like Shakespeare in a different way, because
Uh-huh.
you got to hit those jokes without
Rimming, yeah.
being gimmicky. You have to be able, that's a rhythm that you have to have. And so in theater, you're allowed to breathe. You can take that moment, you can take that pause that you can't do in episodic television. They're like, all right, say your stuff and let's go.
Get it out.
So
Or
so
you'll end up on the cutting room floor, like they say.
that's right. So how long did it take you to write the one man show?
I didn't. I think I worked on it for a couple of years, but I've worked on it because they kept telling me to shorten it because it was too long. and the more I shortened it, the longer it got because something new would happen and new characters would come in, and it's really all over the place. So now I have a friend who's a professor in Oklahoma who's got his PhD in Spanish and 4 master's degrees, and we turned my one man show into an 8-person play.
Oh, wonderful.
I go back to the first Chicano born after the Ice Age, 40,000 years ago. Hello, the Ice Age was only about 12,000 years ago or something, right? So now they're finding out that all this time stuff, they don't really know
Right,
how long we've been on this earth and the
right.
things, the pyramids that they're finding in Indonesia with the cameras that they can go into the mountain and see that there's 4 layers of civilizations underneath the oldest civilization they thought, and there's just so much out there but there's just so many stories of our Latino stories and I think that what America doesn't realize is that when we get more and more senators and congressmen and people in power, we have a lot more compassion than others. We're not going to do the same thing. New York is different because you grow up and you're around every culture. So it's not it's a hodgepodge of
Right. Manhattan, I would say the boroughs.
yeah,
Well, a couple of the boroughs, because depending, if you go to Staten Island, it's a little different. But if
yeah.
you grow up in the South Bronx, if you grow up in Manhattan, if you grow up in Brooklyn, you are with everybody. So you have to deal with Italians, you have to deal with the Jewish people, you have to deal with now it's you got a lot of Mexicans there. You also have a lot of Nigerians. You got so it is a melting pot of
But see,
sorts.
you just said you have to deal with.
Yes,
But the reality too is that the way you deal with it is through the humanitarian, the actor that just fits in. Just you you're comfortable. You become
yes,
comfortable in any situation that you're in, no matter what your background is. Is that yeah?
yes.
You can be. When I went to New York, I was the president of the Young Lions at my college. I was the only Chicano, but I was the president. So I get to New York and I look up Lions Club, and I called and they said, come up. It was the top of the sixes to a luncheon with all these multimillionaires. And I had no idea that, and they invited me, and everybody says the motto from their club, and I was the higher than the highest or best of the best, something like that. But one guy I met, and he was a blind guy who had a seeing eye dog. Is the first time I had ever seen that. But they all took me in, like, oh, here's this Texan that's come in, and I was different. And but had I been like a business school type of guy, that I could have made hay out of it. I could have gotten in a lot of doors. I got in the big door. I was right there having lunch with the biggest, and I didn't even realize it till much later. I said, wow, I was right there. And the way they accepted me was incredible because I was the president of a
Right.
club like theirs.
You
You know,
you came with credentials,
yeah.
so they had to accept you. That. But the what I want to switch real quick because there's so much I want to ask you, but I want to take a moment to just talk to you about your wife and how important she's been in your life. The fact that you've been married over 50 years, that's another test. Like, you have so many testimonies, you have so many, there's so many parts of you that are so fascinating, because in this business, if someone is with somebody for 10 years, that's pretty amazing. But
Yeah.
how, and you met your wife early on when you came to Los Angeles.
My second day in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had done the production of Hair in Acapulco, and the lead guy from Acapulco was an Acapulco beach boy, and he was a friend of hers, had been married to her friend. And she said, I'm going to take you in. I went to the whiskey where my wife always was at the whiskey, but she wasn't there the first night. I came to be in the production of Hair, but I
In
didn't
Los Angeles?
in Los Angeles, but I couldn't sing. I wasn't, I came thinking that I was, and thinking that I was going to be the Mexican Clint Eastwood. I had a Mexican sombrero, the sarape. I had an eye patch that I had made, and a leather necklace, and wristbands like Gilbert Roland, and I knew I was going to get discovered that night by. I knew who I was going to get discovered by too, the Smothers Brothers, because they were the producers. Some of the two of the producers of Hair, right? So the when we're young and we have all these ideas that so man, just keep those ideas going because it just when you start finding out that no, those are just pipe dreams. No, but if you keep having them and keep making them happen, and then all of a sudden you're doing something, and something small becomes as big as starring in a movie or something, and you say, no, I'm just doing my improv workshops here, and they had never met a guy like me, to a guy that coming from Mexico, there was an American, but I had this aura about me from the magic mushrooms, this curandero type of character who's like way off. I mean, a different kind of.
Well, you almost sound like a hippie.
Oh yeah,
It
oh yeah, yeah.
was
One of
very
my
hippie esque.
Oh, no, yes, I mean, one of my best characters. See, we didn't repeat any characters. Well, ours was totally new every single time. We never repeated scenes or characters. But one of the ones that I would have was I came out and I had two H's on my chest, and I was Happy Head. Happy Head. And Happy Head, I had some $15 baggies of clean air from Big Bear. Clean air from Big Bear. So, so it was. I mean, that was like, you just go on and on with that kind of stuff, and it's like, anyway.
So you met your wife the
So yeah,
second day.
he took me over there. I met her. Then there was a guy. She had a kind of a friend, boyfriend, and then she came. I had a place to stay for 6 weeks with Yippee, and then they left town, and so I was homeless. But my first week, I got into the improvisational workshop, the Synergy Trust. It became the Synergy Trust, the offshoot of the committee, and the Mexican American Theater Workshop where Richard Inigas was running. And so I got to meet Richard Inigas and the improv. So I was at those two theaters during the day, and I would clean up there, and I would hang out with the homeless, with a quadriplegic on Hollywood and Vine at night, and just talk about his take on stuff, and but so 6 months later, I saw her a few times in that first 6 weeks. She came with a friend to see my improv group, and she invited me home for a drink, and I never left. And now 54 years later, we've only been apart 22 days. 22 days. She's with me on every location, even if I have to go in, I don't drive into LA and stay overnight unless she's with me at the hotel. And she'll just stay at the hotel. She doesn't like to go out all that much and because she's got to stand around when I'm hobnobbing with everybody because I love to mingle.
You're a social person.
Yes.
And she was a clothing designer, right? She
She worked for
designed leather stuff.
leather for for Elvis and Margaret and stuff. And I learned how to do a little bit to help. Uh, but but uh, but then I went off to do one of my first movies, Red Sky at Morning, and I was gone for the first 5 days that I was gone. And she went to the company. They left her in charge of the company, and she turned in the key and said, "Get somebody else to run this because I'm going where Pepe is." She wasn't going to leave me alone
Oh,
because she knew better. Because we somos perros. I mean, men are dogs. I mean, we have
Things happen.
you're out there
Things happen.
and you have per diem money. You're buying people drinks, and you know it's like oh, but she's there with me. We would go anywhere we would go. We're gonna be there 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. She goes and buys, you know, uh, paper flowers and decorates every room like our house is.
Oh,
And she created me as an artist. That's my African sunset behind me.
oh man. First of all, I love your art. We're going to talk about that
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in a minute, but I love your art. I love the colorfulness of it. I love the happiness. Again, your joy comes out in your work.
Yeah,
It comes out in your art. I'm sure it comes out in your garden as well.
it does, and it's like going back to her. Is that she's a Scorpio and a snake, so she's very. She knows exactly what she wants. She says what's on her mind. Not me, not so much. Sometimes, it's like, uh, I wouldn't go into stores where I wasn't going to buy something. That Chicano kind of humility thing. And she's like, "What do you mean? You know, what do you mean going to stand outside? You know?" But just the strength that she has, and it's been great because in improv it's called the yes and adjustment, which is yes and is positive positive, but yes but is positive negative. So if she says, "Pepe, let's go to the store," I said, "Yeah, but I just got to finish this up." Then okay, then, but okay, let's go, and just drop it. Then I'm not being a martyr about it. I'm not going to say, "Oh man, you're really a good guy doing that for her." No, because when you do that and practice that, that's food. That's your food for thought, food for your emotional, how the blood system works, how the emotions work, and how uh, that when you don't get. So when I didn't get a great part, was the same. I tried to make it the same as when I did get that great part, so that I was never on that. I was never on that roller coaster. I try to keep my roller coaster right at an even keel. So I never got. I got a series, and the secretary was like, "Well, aren't you happy?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, why aren't you screaming?" I said, "I don't know. Uh, I wasn't. It's not. Working with those big stars right off. I mean, Gregory Peck. 8 years after he won the Oscar for To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm at his house, and he wants a jacket, like in just the kindest man. It's just like,
Who are a couple of high profile actors that you worked with that gave you something that you use today, like technique, or you watched them and you took a little piece of what you saw them doing?
the most interesting one was obviously Eddie Olmos. That was my best friend, and I got into Zoot Suit, and he was a glorified extra the day I met him, and he tells me I'm going to be the guy who kills him in the movie he's going to direct, and how an extra that he had been with Floyd Mutrix on Aloha, Bobby and Rose. How did this guy get a script from a writer director? How did That's Eddie. I mean, you know Eddie, so you
Yeah,
know he's
yeah,
a phenomenal
unstoppable.
guy. I was, so we went to the first days of rehearsal of Zoot Suit, and then he took off like a rocket ship, and he didn't leave me behind, because I wasn't, I wasn't in the same solar system as him anymore. His trip was his trip. We're all totally different, so we're not in competition. But it was
Yes,
watching
but your
him.
generosity as a friend,
Yeah,
you invested into that friendship, because I've heard him say how you would call him on parts that you went up for and say, "Hey, there's a part you should go up." So you also were a really supportive friend, in that you didn't feel the competition.
no, and which is very important because success, man, you lose a lot of friends that you can't call your friend and say, I just booked a series, man. Oh, you did? Because the because it's not that it's such a competitive. Uh, uh, it is a competitive business, but it's like we're all different, and it's like when you live in that world, then it's not going to be so easy for you. When you're always, "Well, why not me? Why, man? It's a tough business. You don't want anybody in this business or any business that they're not totally in love with and have to do it beyond above and beyond all cost. It's like, and that's going back to my wife. Is that's what she gave me. She was that strength to have somebody that loves me that much to want me. Once we're together 24/7. I mean, we're on the couch. I love to touch. She loves to be touched. Not everybody loves to be touched, and I'm not talking about it in a sexual way,
Yeah.
because that's the least important. But and so to like to touch and be, so you got to meet your
Your
your your
match,
your
your
match. Oh,
yin to your yang. Um,
it's just a miracle.
so I want to ask about the art, how you transitioned into also adding art, because um, in in doing my research on you, you have always been an artist, touching all kinds. You talk about touching. You have touched all kinds of parts of art, from dancing to poetry to boxing, because boxing is also an art, to acting to improv, you know. So getting and garden is, to me, gardening is art, because you get to make your garden, and you get to see the
I
colors. And
I paint. I painted my yard
wow.
with plants. It's a painting that I've created, and then that I have to keep nourishing. Uh, 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 Something came to mind, but it just kind of went out. But about that, because it's uh, it's amazing. It's just amazing, life, how everything is. She created me as an artist. I was never an artist.
When did you pick up the brush?
Well, we were filming in New Mexico, a red sky at morning, and I went and got some watercolors. And behind a big menu, I painted a buffalo and a native, her and I. It's always her and I, and colored clouds, and she always liked my art better than my acting, because she's tough. She's a tough customer. Oh man, she doesn't. There's not a whole lot of things that she likes, in films or theater. Theater she didn't like that much, because you always hear people. But she'd always describe it as yes. And, you hear the people walking on the stage, and but it's anyway. But I love that about improv, was that you always broke the fourth wall. That you could talk to the audience,
Yes.
and
I want to talk about your book, and your movie. Um, I want to talk about the documentary first, because that's hitting a lot of the festivals, and you've won at least 5 awards so far,
yeah,
uh, from your documentary called "Life Is Art," which I think is so appropriate, because you are art, and so your life is art. I love it. Um, and you've been working on this for quite a few years,
yeah,
on the
10 years,
documentary.
10 years,
Wow.
and mainly because Luis Reyes is the director, and
Okay.
he's
And
my
for those who don't know, Luis Reyes is a wonderful publicist, and also a historian. He's written some books on Latino history of Hollywood, and he's also Puerto Rican. An amazing man. So um so he directed your
And he
piece.
kept me. He kept it going. He kept it going, and he kept all the pictures and all that. So and and um, and so we kept it. We had different documentaries. This last one was the one that turned out to be the
Different
best.
versions of the
Yeah,
documentary.
yeah. And then this one was the best one. So it was good that I was able to have the wherewithal to keep it going. And the book the same, 6 years. It took me 45 days to write it, but then I had Christine Garcia Rodriguez help me in editing. She had to, because my friend from the Marines got me to write it, and I had kind of helped him in the Marines spiritually and to go. And he's the only one who went of our group that went to Vietnam, and he was like this skinny guy, but we got him, in with todos los mexicanos to run and he became a bad son of a gun in Vietnam. He went through a lot of pain, so he kept telling me, just write the book. You need you're a teacher. All these things that he saw in me, and he was kind of a seer himself. So I wrote it in 45 days, but it was all single space
Oh
caps.
no.
I thought it was going to be easy
Oh
to
no.
read, but then it was caps. And so she had to go through it and go, and then I had different people help me with the editing, but it was my story.
They can pick up the book on pepeserna.net, and they can get the movie on different platforms,
Different
including Amazon, including Apple TV and Google Play.
Yeah, it's the story and the documentary is also with Eva Longoria, Eddie Olmos, Cheech Marin, Luis Valdez, Robert Beltran. It's just Gloria Calderon Kellett, the showrunner on With Love. Oh, for those of you who get Amazon Prime, please check out With Love. It's a great Latino series, and there's so many Latinos that have Amazon Prime but don't know that
and
we're on.
Gloria and
So,
Gloria was the showrunner of One Day at a Time. So
yeah,
she is
she's,
a
she,
beast as far as
she is.
getting shows done. She's
She's
really excellent.
amazing. She's so the diversity is the name of her game for the directors and actors and everything. But we need our audience. Our audience doesn't do for us what the African American audience did for the African American storytellers. They supported them. They had the first weekender club where everybody went that first weekend, and then what happens is a phenomenon called that a movie then has legs, which means that people are telling other people, and you see those legs running to the theater, legs and legs. It has
Yeah.
legs running to the theater looking
Part
for
of
something.
it is training our people to say
Yeah,
this
we
is
don't do.
important. If you want to watch us, if you want to see more of you on the screen, you got to go out and support, whether you like the artist or not. Just go out and support, because when
Oh, yeah, man.
Hollywood sees that the film is doing well, they're going to want to do another version of it. So it's really important that we support our own, like we support Fast and the Furious, or those big those
Oh,
big
that's what we
movies.
do. We're the bigger. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And that's our problem. The kids don't see themselves, and all they see is these cartels and all this negative stereotypes. And the other one that my friend told me, the 10 best two-letter words in the English language are, if it is to be, it is up to me. So it's don't.
Well, the wonderful thing, I didn't mean to cut you off. The wonderful thing is that there are so many Latinos coming out now that have stories and have the ability to tell it by film. They can go out and tell it. When we were starting, we didn't have that option. We didn't have young filmmakers who could come through, and now we have that option because of
And
technology.
yeah, and you have that option. How do I get to Hollywood? How can I get? You are in Hollywood.
Yes.
Wherever you are, you have the iPhone. You have a camera. You can make your own movies with your friends right where you are. Not, oh, I wish I could. I would. No, no, do it. Create little scenarios and shoot them, edit them, learn how to edit and shoot it, and boom, all of a sudden you have a scene that you're gonna say, wow, that's just as good as anything I see on TV because it's gonna be your story and it's gonna be real and you're gonna learn how that it's not, you know, the wild jackass guy doing stunts to trying to kill himself. It's like organic stuff that is happening in the barrio, happening in our neighborhoods. The the little girl who studied hard and became a doctor that went to Harvard. This one, and not everybody has the same story. The workers, and the small businesses in your neighborhood. That's who you have to support. Support your neighborhood businesses. That's what we are. All of us entertainers are small businesses.
What are three things you could give young people coming into the business today to help them in their careers moving forward?
Start creating your own one-person show that you can do, just 5, 10, 15 minutes, 30, it'll grow. But just do it because you have that. And just do it for yourself because then you can work on your own craft and learn how to do and educate yourself in film, educate yourself in the arts, different styles of art, the different periods of art, the artists when they were now with with uh, with the world at our hand, man. There's nothing that we can't find out. That's just not, and that's why it's so important to learn how to read and to be a good reader. You know that if a child learns 8 nursery rhymes by the time they're 4 years old, they're excellent readers by the time they're 8 years old. 8 nursery rhymes by the time they're 4 years old, because it's that muscle memory. It's getting it now. They know these rhymes, and so now they're readers, and so by the time they're 8 years old, they've already gotten in. I have a great grandson who's 7, and he's just like phenomenal. I mean, he stays 2.5 hours reading his books. His his grandmother got him a chess book on chess, and so he was playing his dad, and then he did a move. It's called the castle, where it's a move that not too many people ever use, but he used it right away because he read it and he retained it. But not everybody retains everything. See, we're not. This is a tricky world, and not everything is equal.
Uh,
But so that's why I say, so long as you stay within yourself and know that you're not in competition with everybody else, that you're enjoying what you're learning about whatever it is that you're learning, and keep a journal about if you learn how to do something with a faucet, girls or boys, write it down so you know if you run into that problem, you can go back to your own encyclopedia and say, how did I fix that on the computer? I'm practicing what I don't preach, and I'm practicing a little bit of what I preach. I like to practice, as much as I can. But if you start doing it at a young enough age, it becomes a habit. And when habit becomes practice becomes habit, they say that becomes genius. Then that becomes genius. It's when you already have your own way of educating yourself and learning how to do things. Do theater. Do as much theater as you can, performing. Uh, Learn how to use a camera and how to edit. How to Editors become the best directors because when you're an editor, you become a good editor after a long time. Then you already know what the scene is. So when you're directing, you already have the scene that's going to be cut later. That you don't have any extemporaneous anything extra that you need to worry about. And then kindness. Be kind to each other, and and help each other, and encouragement, encourage others, because when you do for others, it doesn't come back. Just a fast. I had read Wayne Dryer's book. I was going to shoot the Black Dahlia in Bulgaria, and I read it, and the book was about when you do something good, you don't wait for applause or think. I ask, how did I do? You don't have to. You already know. When you did it, you already know. So I go do a scene, and Brian De Palma wanted to kill me again, but this time, like he did in Scarface, this time I was going to be electrocuted. So I did my research, and man, when and they said that a lot of times that the energy that they was still there, that they would come out of the chair, would pull the chair out of the, with all that, you know,
Electricity.
electricity they have. So it happened, and boom, and the bolts came out. I picked the chair up, and then he said, uh, "No, Pepe, just stop." You know. So, so then, so I went back down. They bolted it back down, and so then it happened again, and I died. And I was slumped, and it felt long, 30 seconds, a minute, maybe. And I look up, and everybody's gone. They had moved to the next set.
It left you.
Yeah, but it was not. I was waiting that thing that I was saying. Hey, don't wait for applause. You already know. And so they said, no, you don't need applause, man. You know what you did. So unfortunately, that scene did get left on the cutting room floor, but you never know why things happen. The way they cut films and stuff. So anyway, I got to go to Bulgaria twice, and got to go to Turkey, to Istanbul for 10 days with my wife, and it's just great to share with a loved one. Uh, and I'm gonna have to get going, but man, Lydia, I mean,
Thank
you know,
you for
great.
sharing your birthday with me. I so
Thank you.
appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I thank you for just being a great example of a willing actor. That your career, which spans over 50 years, could not have been possible if you had not been the person you are.
Yeah.
That you are giving, you are kind, you listen, and you jump in. You're like, let's do it. And you are joyful.
Yeah.
So thank
I
you.
yeah, and just in a parting, at one point, I wrote an acting book, and everything started. It was called the Pepe Serna Residual School of Acting, because once you get one line, then you want two lines, and then you want three lines, and then they offer you two lines. No, I'm already up to three lines. That's when you start screwing up. So my thing was if. Everything started with if. If the part is too small for you, you're probably already too big. If if you're too short for the part, when you walk in, pretend you're a giraffe. It says, if everybody's pointing and staring at you, you probably got toilet paper stuck on the bottom of your shoe. So everything worked. But it's that. It's just giving yourself all those. And it was the residual school of acting is just do the part. Because next summer when your rent is due, so many people, there's very few actors that can have that kind of career where they can wait for the bigger, 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 bigger. So that was a godsend that I didn't have to suffer that.
Well, we thank you so much and
Thank
thank you
you.
for watching. And remember to go to actingsmarternow.com to get your online course to help you be the actor that you are meant to be.